How do I stop broody behaviour? Should I stop broody behaviour? These are some of the top questions asked by backyard poultry owners every day. And to this end, there are a lot of inhumane, completely unnecessary methods that float about as recommendations online out of pure desperation. So let's break down the reality. To understand when and how to break broody behaviour, we must first understand why it happens. What's the natural function and what's actually going on inside that beautiful little brain? From there, it should all fall into place and make sense. If you are new to this topic, a broody hen or clucky hen is one that has decided that she wants to sit on her eggs to keep them warm, to hatch them. She wants to incubate those eggs. Now, of course, the natural function of this is to reproduce and create chicks. But whether those eggs are fertile, or whether you even have a rooster, actually has nothing to do with her decision to brood those eggs. So this can be really frustrating for owners because not only will she stop laying for this time, she's also going to take a few weeks to resume laying again on the other side of it. And while she's brooding, she does put herself at risk of some key health issues as well. It is really important that you can distinguish between a broody hen and a very sick, weak hen because they frequently get confused. Please do jump over to our video on how to recognize if a broody hen is in fact broody rather than sick and how to examine and keep her healthy during this time. Right, so why does it happen? What are the triggers? Certainly season, day length, in big part genetic. So certain breeds and certain individuals will do so more than others, which can actually be really useful if you want some foster mums to deliberately incubate eggs. There are probably a number of genes interacting here. We really don't deal with broody behaviour in the commercial laying industry because it was bred out and managed out of them many decades ago. So these are the things that we cannot control. But there are some things we can control. There is a really strong trigger to brood by having access to a comfortable nest, by seeing eggs and even seeing chicks with other hens, which is really kind of cute because they almost covered each other's chicks. So if you have a hen on the edge of going broody, or you know she does it easily, managing those eggs, managing those nests is going to be a really big part of preventing it. But there's two different things going on here. Triggers to initiate broody behaviour and then the triggers to maintain it. What happens is when these environmental triggers line up, then estrogen and progesterone climb. These are the two female sex hormones. This is what triggers the onset of broody behaviour. But it is the stimulation of feeling eggs against her underside that makes the hormone prolactin climb. And that is the hormone that maintains the behaviour for a prolonged period of time. And that is the key to breaking it. When broody behaviour is triggered, she will pluck a bunch of feathers from underneath her and create these bald brood patches. And then the stimulation of objects against her brood patches is what tells her to keep sitting. Fun fact, in mammals, prolactin is a hormone that encourages milk production and plays a role with bonding as well. So it's interesting that this is how it plays out in chooks. So if she has a nice warm nest, if she is allowed to accumulate eggs, if there are other chicks around along with the right season and set of genetics, she's much more likely to go broody. Collect these eggs frequently, once or even twice a day if you've got multiple hens. This can prevent broodiness. Some hens are really persistent and will go broody on absolutely nothing. So what do you do to stop it once you've got a hen in the swing of things? In the early stages, keeping her away from the nest, removing all nesting material, this may be all you need to do. Lock her out. If she makes a nest somewhere else, then remove her in the night and place her on the perch with the other hens. They don't tend to want to go wandering in the dark with the risk of predators around, so she's much more likely to leave the nest for the night, and by morning, hopefully her brood patches have cooled off and the behaviour's broken. In the early stages, in the first few days, these tactics can work really well. If they don't and she's too far into the swing of it, you've got a couple of options. Remember, warmth and eggs stimulating her underside is what's keeping her prolactin high. So you can try placing her in a barred cage, meaning the bottom is not solid. Give her a perch, of course, food and water, protect her from the elements, be hyper aware of heat, stress and wind. This is not about torture. This is simply about preventing any stimulation of that brood patch. Some people call it cooling her off. Let her out once or twice a day to scratch and stretch those legs, try and distract her with food and socialization, and see if she heads back to that nest. If she doesn't, well done, all finished. If she does, she needs to go back in the cage. The alternative option is, dare I say, do nothing just for a little while. Sitting on eggs is a natural part of a hen's life cycle. While she is sitting, her reproductive tract will rest, her ovary will regress and calm down, so it is a break for the reproductive tract. If those eggs are fertile, the eggs would hatch in about 3 weeks. So most hens should get off on their own anyway in 4 to 5 weeks, when that hormone prolactin starts to drop and her motivation naturally wanes. So some people will choose to let them sit for 3 to 4 weeks before removing them, and often at that stage it's much easier because her motivation's already waning. So for example, if she's already a couple of weeks in, you're very likely to find she ends up in chicken jail for an entire week or 2 just to break the behaviour. So you may as well just give her that week or 2 on her own and wait for the hormone to naturally come down. The reason that it's generally recommended that they're not allowed to sit is that humans have not generally been selecting genetics for healthy, broody behaviour in backyard flocks. So some hens will get off when they should, but not all of them. Some will sit for months and let themselves literally starve to death. Some will sit persistently throughout the day instead of getting off to forage and move around. This in itself can result in nerve damage and paralysis and joint stiffness from underlying arthritis. While she sits, she's also at higher risk of pneumonia and external parasites, and she will lose a certain amount of weight even during a normal brooding period. And finally, sitting on a nest on the ground at night puts her at high risk of predators in free-ranging systems. So monitor her closely. If you have a persistent brooder, you are going to need to take measures to break the behaviour. You can't just leave them to sit it out. She really will harm herself. And a final note here, if you physically stress any animal enough, they will cease all reproductive function in order to survive. This does not make it okay. Old methods that float around, like hanging them upside down from trees, hosing them down, using ice baths, these are completely unacceptable and inhumane. But hopefully, with a good understanding of those triggers and how to alter those hormones in a humane fashion, you should be all in the clear. If you're struggling to break the behaviour with these methods, please consider that she may very well be sick and weak rather than brooding. Check out our video on performing a physical exam on your hens or have her visit a vet. Alright, all the best guys. Bye bye.